The game's the game, yeah? A fight's a fight. No, don't worry about it, it's a step over. It's done. What I'm saying now is, all bets are off.
Conor has that, and Tony has the task of having to do that with Conor. He has to make sure that he uses that fire and that aggression and that real will to win in the right.
I'm going for a lot for Conor Benn with the spitefulness and the hatred that he has. And I know when you really dislike someone, it brings something out of you. But you know, I'm looking forward to that fight.
You know, it's a mismatch. It's an entertaining matchup.
Why is it a mismatch?
Because of ability, because of weight classes.
Boxing experts have shared their predictions for the Chris Eubank Jr. vs. Conor Benn fight. Eddie Hearn believes Benn will come out like a caged animal when the fight starts in April. He admits Benn is the smaller fighter but thinks his speed, aggression, and hunger will give him an edge. Hearn expects Benn's non-stop pressure to make the fight fast-paced and explosive.
Can't wait. I mean, look, Eubank's playing a blinder for the promotion of the fight. I mean, a little bit annoying. I mean, unfortunately, if I could fight, I'd want to give him a slap myself, but that's not going to happen. So, Conor's fired up. I mean, honestly, I've never seen someone put themselves through what he is putting himself through in training camp. He's going to be like a caged animal when that bell goes on April 26th. A big disadvantage in size, but he makes up for it in attribute, hunger, you know, youth, tenacity, volatility, and he is in camp with his dad, grafting and dreaming every day of violating Chris Eubank Jr. on April 26th and doing it in spectacular fashion. And I can't wait.
Many boxing pros see this as a mismatch because of the big weight difference. Benn is jumping up 2 weight classes to face Eubank Jr., who has been fighting at this higher weight for most of his career. Experts worry Benn might struggle with Eubank's size and power. In boxing, bigger fighters often have the advantage, which could work in Eubank's favor.
You know, it's a mismatch. It's an entertaining matchup.
Why is it a mismatch?
Because of ability, because of weight classes. Chris Jr. is a middleweight and a super middleweight. You know, he's naturally a super middleweight. So, you know, he's having to starve himself to come down, and, you know, with all the catch weights and all of this stuff, it's, you know, it's a mismatch. You know,
Okay.
he is operated at world level. He's been in with the likes of George Groves, and, you know, the list goes on. It's a mismatch in ability and weight class.
Spencer Fearon, a well-known boxing analyst, points out the long-running rivalry between the Eubank and Benn families. He explains that their fathers' famous fights in the past make this matchup even more exciting. Fearon says fans are fascinated by this next chapter in the feud, making it one of the most talked-about fights right now. The history adds drama and puts extra pressure on both fighters to live up to their family names.
And the hatred that he has. And I know when you really dislike someone, it brings something out of you. But, you know, I'm looking forward to that fight. For the simple fact is, like, that event within itself is fantastic because it's crossed over. Lots of people are talking about it. Everywhere you go, people are talking about it. There was nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely excellent. And plus, I can remember when the two fathers first fought, and the second time is when they fought in October of of '93. But when the fathers first fought, when they first went at it, I remember that fight clearly in my head. It was a Sunday night. It was at November 18th, 1990, and it was like, it seemed like the world stopped to watch that fight. And this has drawn something from it because everybody's talking about it. And fair play to both men. They're selling the fight really well, which is genuine. It's not orchestrated. Oh, you're gonna do this. No, it's proper. So I'm looking forward to that fight. May the better man win.
Yeah, for sure.
This family rivalry isn't just interesting, it also adds pressure. Conor Benn has joked about the weight of his father Nigel Benn's legacy, asking why he had to be the one to keep the Eubank rivalry going. His comments show how personal this fight is for him, mixing emotion with his professional goals.
It's only right that I do justice for the second fight. That was a draw that he should have won. Ultimately, I'm just, you know, Dad. why have you left your dirty laundry to me, mate? Why have I got to close the show for you? Why have I got to handle your dirty business? You know, I've got to do this for my dad. You know, because he couldn't do it himself.
Brave man, Conor. Brave man.
Former middleweight champion Darren Barker says the jab will be crucial in this fight. He believes Conor Benn's sharp, accurate jab could give him a big advantage. Barker explains that Benn's aggression, paired with his strong jab, might throw off Eubank Jr.'s timing and game plan. Even though Benn is smaller, his skills could still cause major problems for Eubank Jr.
Important. So yes, attacks to the body going to be paramount. I think the jab, crucial. I think out of the two, Conor has the better jab. At times, Eubank Jr.'s jab's been non-existent. We see him starting to use his jab a little bit more under his short time with Roy Jones, but it's a shot that he neglects. So yeah, I think variation, certainly from Conor Benn, is going to be much needed on April 26th.
Obviously, we've seen quite a fiery build-up between the pair. Do you feel like Junior's trying to play up to that, trying to get beneath the skin of Conor Benn and hoping that he just disrupts him and his mentality going through his camp and ultimately leading up to fight night?
Yeah, I think so. That's maturity and experience. That's how. But Conor's naturally fiery. Conor has that bit between his teeth. You know, he's his dad's son. His dad was as fiery as they come, and so was Conor. I think if Chris Eubank Jr. was placid and respectful, I think Conor would still be fiery. But yeah, he's. I would have thought he's won quite a lot of people over, Chris Eubank Jr. Although him and his dad have always been Marmite, you either love him or you hate him. I think where he's been so outspoken and he said things a lot of people probably wouldn't have. People have sort of warmed to him, but you know, there's always a goodie and a villain in a lot of these grudge matches. But this one seems to have really a split opinion. You know, they both.
Legendary trainer Roy Jones Jr., who has worked with Chris Eubank Jr., says he's seen big improvements in his game. Jones believes Eubank Jr.'s better technique, combined with his natural size and strength, could be too much for Benn. If Benn's punches don't hurt Eubank Jr., Jones thinks Eubank could take control of the fight and overpower him.
How do you see that one going?
Very tough fight for Conor. Not saying he can't win it because one big left hook could change anything. But to me, his best chance are to try to land a big shot. If that don't happen, or if he lands it and it don't hurt Chris, then it's going to be really, pretty rough for him because Chris is definitely an improved fighter. You understand me? And like, even the stuff he's doing now, he's going to continue to get better. But I think when he came down there with me for that year, it improved his foundation. You understand me? So it made him a better fighter. So he's going to be hard to beat for anybody, especially a guy that's smaller than him. But we saw Liam Smith pull out the upset at one time. So I know that gave Ben much more hope that he could probably do the same. So it's going to be a great fight. Both fighters are great fighters. I love both of them. I think Chris is a little bigger and has the advantage because he's bigger, but it's going to be a great fight.
You know what, a lot of people are talking about it, Roy, you know about cutting weight and whatnot. A lot of people are talking about Chris Eubank Jr. now being at 160 and maybe being tight at that weight now, but the rehydration clause, £10, I'm saying, listen, with a £10 rehydration clause in it, that won't affect him at all.
That won't affect him at all, but I really think...
Former super middleweight champion Carl Froch isn't too excited about this matchup. He says Eubank Jr. hasn't fought often enough recently, and Benn hasn't proven himself at this weight. Froch's comments reflect some fans' doubts, whether this fight will be competitive or entertaining.
The Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fight does absolutely nothing for me.
Really?
Yeah, Chris Eubank Jr. lost to George Groves, he lost to Billy Joe Saunders, he doesn't box, he boxes once a year. He looked terrible in his last fight. He was slow with his jab, he was leaving his chin in the air, his balance looks like it's gone. He's 36 years old, talking about fighting Canelo Alvarez and taking on all these top, he was talking about Triple G for a while, who's now gone 40 and retired. Conor Benn, what's Conor Benn done?
Not a lot, to
be fair. He beat Chris Algieri and failed, he's failed that drugs test. We're not seeing him do anything. He's fought nobody, he's not developed. He's not developed, he's done nothing. So for Conor Benn to jump in there with Chris Eubank Jr., the only reason that fight would be close is because they're probably going to drain Eubank down to 160, a middleweight. And then, but Conor Benn's having to come up from 147.
Yeah.
So
gap there.
it's not an exciting fight. It don't prove anything.
British middleweight fighter Hamza Shiraz is backing Conor Benn to win. He thinks Benn's aggressive, high-pressure style could neutralize Eubank Jr.'s size advantage. Shiraz believes if Benn keeps pushing forward, he can overcome the bigger man.
And won't get the better of Eubank?
I think Conor Benn beats Eubank, but I kind of need Eubank to win. Do you know what I mean? For myself, from a selfish perspective, I need him to win.
Did you want to fight him?
Yeah, exactly.
Would it be the first defence if you win that, or when you win that WBC title? Is that someone that you would choose?
100%. 100%. As long as obviously everyone's okay with it, it'd be that. I mean, why not? It'd be the biggest fight for me next in boxing, and I haven't got long left in the 160-pound division, so it's not me going on about taking certain defences. It's all about just fighting the big fight.
Sure. And it lines up because
respected trainer Mark Tibbs says weight changes could decide this fight. He admits Benn is tough and fearless, but warns that jumping up in weight is risky. Tibbs explains that unless you've seen their training camps, it's hard to know how. Well, they've adjusted, and this could be the difference on fight night.
It's a special time for myself as a fan in this fight, yeah, for sure.
If you're Conor Benn, what does he have to do to go up 2 weight classes and beat Eubank?
Well, listen, look, fights are won and lost on the scales most of the time. You get me? Not most of the time, but fights are won and lost on the scales. Unless you're in the camp and you're around the camp, it's difficult to make judgments. But listen, Ben's got the ferocity and he's got the art and the ferocity and art and all of that. He's got yeah, and he has looked good. He has looked good of late. You know, when he was active. What's his name? The other guy, Eubanks. For me, he's been a little bit inactive, but he's an hard fucker and all. I'll tell you what. When his old man sent him out to New York, I forget who he was with now, but he was out in New York. You know, his old man's conditioned him. His old man. I like the job that both their fathers have done on their kids. You know, I like Eubank, the way he talks. I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off here now, but I like him. I can't say I dislike him. And Benn, and he reminds me of his old man. You know what I mean? He reminds me of his old man. So yeah, great fight, great fight. I'm looking forward to it.
And then just circling back to your gym, what's the latest with?
The build-up to the fight has had some bizarre moments. The most memorable was when Eubank Jr. slapped Benn with an egg. Analysts called it funny, but also clever mind games. These kinds of stunts make the fight more exciting and can get inside the fighters' heads before they even step in the ring.
It's a fight that I'll be watching. I'll be there, obviously, on the night. But if I wasn't there,
what have you made of the antics?
I would be watching it.
What have you made of the antics? Do you think? I mean,
I've seen worse. I said about Chisora in throwing the table towards Dylan White. I was filming it. I was sitting in the front row of the press conference. I was at the press conference, and I was laughing and joking about it. And afterwards, it was okay. It was a bit of a rant by Chisora, but we expect that from Chisora. I'm not going to lie, when it happened, I laughed my head off. I absolutely laughed my head off.
I did too.
I thought it was quite poetic. I thought what happened was quite funny. It wasn't dangerous. It wasn't something that, like, I had someone, Nigel, saying I thought he glassed him. I can understand by the noise of it. Things happen fast in the heat of a moment. I get it. But afterwards, all's well that ends well, really. And it's created a lot more fuss about the fight, a lot more column inches, a lot more press and publicity. All publicity is good publicity, but then the board come in and think they can find a fight at £100,000 for it, and that's their prerogative, but it didn't sit right with me.
Some experts think this fight might be happening too late. They say it would have been more exciting if they'd fought earlier in their careers, when both were at their peak. But others point out that Benn's recent wins prove he's still dangerous, no matter when the fight happens.
Eubank Benn.
Yeah, well, it's bigger than it ever was. It's 3 times bigger than it was before the 2 positive clomiphene tests. Benn's dangerous early in that fight, in my view, because he's coming with all that stinging venom and kind of pent-up aggression that he's developed over the last 2.5 years. But I think Eubank's fought the better level of opponents, even though he's aged 2.5 years and he's been knocked out by Liam Smith. I go Eubank on points. What do you go?
I go Benn.
Early?
Early.
Yeah, you may be right.
I just think from the history, I'd love to see the Benn family celebrate.
I'm looking forward to the build-up once they get the fathers involved. April the 26th. Nigel and Conor are both emotional. And Chris both play the villain, don't they?
Okay.
Even though I think in this one, Eubank Jr. is going to be able to sit back a little bit. Yeah, some people are saying that they don't think the fight means anything, but I think the bloodline in British sport.
Any man in the UK who's watched the dads fight are desperate to watch this.
Sports analyst Simon Jordan has doubts about Eubank Jr.'s skills. He's said publicly that he doesn't believe Eubank Jr. has what it takes to be a world champion. Jordan's criticism adds,
I've said it from day one. He will never be world champion.
Is that because you don't like him?
No.
Or is that because you don't think he's got the capability?
I'll tell you the reason why. Simon, because I've been in the ring with him. I know the difference between your David Lemieux, why I can see why they were world champion, your Andy Lees, why they were world champion, even John Ryder. Eubank can fight, but he just can't box.
Right.
That's the problem. He can fight, but he can't box. Eubank is, when we were going back 24, 25, like a wind-up toy, you could get him fit, wind him up, let him go, and he'd go all day.
Yeah.
Now we're at the stage of 33, 34, where you've got to learn to pace yourself, pick your punches, flow around. No disrespect to Liam Smith, but he was no different than a punch bag.
But you don't think he's going to win a world title?
He'll never, ever, ever be... I'll tell you what I would do with you, Simon. I'll have a bet with you now, and I'll give you 2-1, and I will pay me bets.
Well, I'm not like coaches, are we? Yeah.
I will pay me bets. He'll never be world champion as long as he's got an O.
Legendary boxing expert Teddy Atlas recognizes Chris Eubank Jr.'s talent when he's focused. Atlas stresses that Eubank Jr.'s discipline and experience could decide this fight. His mental preparation, in particular, might be the key to victory.
It'll be an interesting fight. You know, you can make I like parts of each guy. You know, I like the ability of Eubanks when he's right. You know, when his focus is there, when he's right, to be able to do things in a boxing way on the outside. And I love Ben's style and his approach. I do, where, you know, being aggressive in a responsible way. You know, in a way a fighter should be, with paying attention to, you know, doing it with defense and responsibility of defense and, you know, just proper way to engage somebody, but the consistent offense, looking to, you know, to engage. I think it's an interesting, and again, the thing that the flowers that come with it is the interest of the fan.
Trainer Dave Coldwell sees clear advantages for Eubank Jr. His years fighting at elite level against top competition give him both size and experience benefits. This helps him stay calm when the pressure's on.
I just think that, you know, there's size advantages with Chris. There's experience at fighting at a higher level with Chris, but there's also a lot more wear and tear on Chris. You know, also, you know, Chris is getting older. Making 160 is getting harder, but just getting older as a you know, is a fact. Age catches up on us, and I thought, you know, his last fight, I did think he looked old. So there are a lot of factors to this fight. There's, you know, Conor Benn's not boxed at the level. Not that Chris is, you know, an amazing level, but he's not had the same sort of experience as what Chris has had. But also, he's sharper, he's faster, and we've seen that Chris can get knocked out, so you don't know what's going to happen.
Coldwell explained that fighting a bigger opponent requires complete self-belief, but he warned that the weight cut and rehydration process could cause problems. While Ben's aggression is dangerous, Eubank's size and experience might prove too much in the end.
From the past that were now brought into the present. So yeah, that's good, and I'm glad Chris and his dad have made up, because I know that they seem to have had the problems and stuff. So that's good to hear. As for the show and for the, you know, for the hype, that just adds to it. It's going to be nuts, obviously.
What are you saying in regards of two things here? How much of that Conor Benn having to make up that weight where Eubank is, and also the rehydration, which kind of limits Eubank for the next day? What do you think about those situations?
Well, I'm not a fan of rehydration clauses, to be fair. When it's, you know, I get the IBF, it's a world title fight, that's their rules, not a problem. £10. But when it's not a title fight, if you're picking a fight against a guy that's a lot bigger, you're believing that you can beat that man. Well, it said that he only puts on about £8-9 anyway. So really, if that's the case, then it doesn't really make any difference. So crack on. The question for me is, does Eubank stay strong getting to 160? Because in his last fight, it's also the first time I've looked at him and thought, you look old. So, I don't know. Ben's going to go in there swinging, guns blazing. I don't know what he walks around at. He's not really been a puncher at light middleweight when he's boxed, that sort of weight a couple of times. I don't know. It's interesting. It's one of those fights where you think that the bigger man should win and he should be able to do a job on him, but the pace and intensity that Conor Benn's going to bring as well, it could catch him. It's not like now how it was before where you looked.
That's all for today's breakdown. Don't forget to subscribe for more boxing analysis. See you next time.